I get some peppered sailor juice. Whoop. That's not right. There we go. Top it off with a little green. Boop. Here. Strongest thing I could brew up for you. Thanks. I miss these drinks a little. Oh, that's sweet. Don't dwell on it. Anyway, Fable, let's go. I'll be right there. I'm sure everyone will be okay, innkeeper, so don't you worry about it. Make sure to keep hot chocolate warm for Melly. I'm sure she'd love one of those. I'll give it my best. I know you will. Don't swim out too far. We'll see. The waters are dangerous these days. Just what are you up to? I make sure I have enough ingredients for the hot chocolate around, I guess. I knew she'd show up. Good to see you're open, innkeep. And good evening to you too, Una. Ha! Spare me the babbling, though I'm glad you seem unharmed. I am, thanks to some protective spells I put on the inn a while back. Works better than any insurance. What about you? Are you unharmed? I'm as good as new. Might be missing an arm, but doesn't mean I've forgotten how to swim. It's easier than walking, actually. And breathing in water instead of air was unexpectedly nice. These gills aren't just for decorative purposes. A little bit like home, you know. The water tasted different than all that astral sea. More primordial, you might even say. Yeah, I figured. But you don't seem very worried about it. Nah, whatever happens is none of my business now. I'm retired. And water also doesn't bother me. Shouldn't bother you too much either, am I right? Since you're so close to... I knew you wouldn't forget. I might be old, but I'm not senile. Me neither. So you wouldn't call the primordial sea your home then? I've inhabited a few planes already. My past doesn't define the word home for me anymore. But you're right, primordial water doesn't do any harm to me. Even if I wanted to drown in it, I wouldn't be able to. But honestly, I was more worried about my patrons than the inn itself. Hope everyone is safe and well. Wouldn't worry too much about all your regulars. Adventurers are tote folk, and your drinks would toughen them up even further. I have faith that you're right. But your tavern... Well, let's just say it definitely has seen better days. Nah, that's kind of an understatement. It looks like... Ouch. I've been working the whole day to clean up as much as I can. My condolences. Say, have you ever talked to a wizard of Morlia? No, sadly I haven't had the pleasure. Oh, you should if you get a chance. He's always loved all kinds of spells and enchantments. More of the kind involving trickery, like puzzles and traps. But I'm sure he knows a protective spell or two. I mean, he's been protecting his wizard tower for quite some time now. I'll keep that in mind if I ever get to meet him. I suppose you're not just here to talk. How about a drink? Ah, you definitely have a way with the customer service. How about a drink that'll wake up my old muscles so I can help you tidy up your tavern afterwards? I can't quite remember having asked for your help. Ah, what's that? My old ears suddenly can't understand what you're saying. How unfortunate. Maybe a strong drink would help. Alright, coming right up. Let's see if I can do this one from memory. You get some of this in here. This, and he's gonna say Southern Brawler. Then you pour in a little dexterity, Sailor's Courage. Boop. There you go, a drink. Powerful, like the Astral Sea. Wonderful. I consumed enough primordial waters to last me weeks. And it doesn't taste exactly like home, but the hint of magical elemental magic revives some old memories. I gotta say, you definitely know your craft. Thank you. Could I maybe convince you to just relax and let me do my work? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Forget it. Let's clean this messy tavern. You insist? Before I forget, all that water swept some animal remains into my pockets. Don't really know where it came from, and I don't feel any kind of astral energy coming from them. So I assume they're either Gaian or primordial. And before I stab myself with them while I'm cleaning, I wanted to check if you had any use for them. Animal remains? Stab? Yeah, they're surprisingly sharp. Now I'm curious. Let me see. Ah, you're so easy. Saber fangs. Neat. Thank you, Una. They might not be primordial, but I think I know just what to do with them. You gonna spice up some drinks? Maybe. Can't wait to try them then. And now let's spice up this old rusty tavern. Innkeep. Rhea. Innkeep. Carolyn. Greetings, Innkeeper. Hello, Archie. Finally came to tell you the tale of tales. Told you we'd be back with a good one, didn't I? Indeed. It's a thrilling story, to be certain. That being said, you look like you got yourself some thrilling stories to tell yourself. None thrill me as much as yours will. Well, grant me one question still. Shoot. Who's that granny on your roof? An old friend of mine. She's helping me tidy up the tavern after the flood. Is this a walking joke? Well, I'm not sure. It depends what you mean, gamer. She's a really nice friend, then. I suppose so. I didn't know she was on the roof. Are there lots of tiles missing? Half of them. About a quarter. Just a few, actually. That's not particularly conclusive, but I trust Una and her abilities. Sometimes. Closing your eyes is the reason you'll run the edge of a blade someday. Or not, if I'm lucky. If. Did the flood hit you as well? You bet. And to hold on to Rhea for a quick second there, or else she would have been swept away like a twig. Ah, hold your weesht. We had just passed through Temis when it happened. Luckily, there were two carriages nearby, wedged between sturdy trees and a large boulder. We managed to pull ourselves out of the raging waters on and into those carriages. Thank the dragons. Could have gone south real quick. And your tavern looks a wee bit wet as well. It is. I've been working non-stop to clean it up. That's not good. Working non-stop comes with being self-employed, I get. No, I mean the flood. Never heard of a flood that massive. It spread all the way from Temis to Zenith. Well, a wolf folk, a dwarf, a tall man walk into a bar. What's the punchline? I get it. I see what you said. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a joke right off the top of my head, but I can't think of one. I'll keep it in mind though. You're right. We certainly aren't that close to the sea. Themis maybe, but not your inn. It's all still very recent. We'll have to wait until we know the true extent of it. Back to your story. How was the journey to Diria? How did you manage with the flood? The journey to Diria itself was uneventful, but venturing to the Diria capital, all the more so. As for the flood, it didn't really bother us until we arrived back on the mainland. I think we should tell the story chronologically. Might make it a bit easier to digest. Thank you, Archie. Alright, then go ahead. Me? Yeah, you're good at telling stories after all. You think so? Aye. Alright, so listen closely, for what's about to unfold is a story as terrifying as it is heroic. Here we go. It was midnight, and the moon was standing high when 3 adventurers assembled at their meeting point. Didn't know we were taking this carrot here along. It was a surprise. Pleasant one, I hope. Having one party member more than anticipated was at least more pleasant than the surprises that lay ahead. Now I'm intrigued. So, accustomed to pleasant surprise, we ventured to Theodore's abode in Themis. Very fancy. Very expensive. Don't think I've ever seen such posh bit before. 3 stories tall. For one person. To be fair, one person and a lot of staff. Like cooks, maid, and a gardener. For a holiday residence. Even worse. I'd very much appreciate it if we didn't judge a person based on their amount of wealth. Or their lack thereof. Exactly. So you arrived at this holiday residence in Themis? Oh wait, that was me. Right, we approached the gates and rang the bell. The fog was creeping up around the house, like it was pressuring us to go in. A man in a black suit opened the gate with a deep and raspy voice, said, "State your business, please." Some sort of butler told him, "Listen up, clown, you are our business." Which wasn't very polite. No one asked you. Maybe you should have. Then they wouldn't have thought you were bandits. Well, we got that cleared up, didn't we? Because I introduced myself quickly when I saw some guards were already approaching. I introduced myself as Gustav Archibald Richmond III. Knowing my family and the childhood friendship that Theo and I have fostered for over 2 decades, the butler relaxed and let us through. You know what's funny, innkeep? What? The other lad was also the 3rd. Born in the same generation, both the 3rd of our names. Perhaps that's why we were destined to be friends, just like our fathers and their fathers were. Theodore Hugo Frederick Sinclair III is his full name. But no one calls him that. We called him Theodore. Or Theo. Either way, we rang him out of his sleep, so he wasn't all that amused to see us. And then he laid eyes upon ye, Ginger. Never seen a gaze light up so fast. What do you mean? That he was happy to see you, that's all. Oh! Well, I was also happy to see him. So, when we caught sight of each other, all the violent tensions were blown away. And others were created. I found our visit very peaceful. Yeah, Theo's a polite lad. Offered us tea and biscuits while we waited for him to pack his things. Not a fan of tea? No, it's just a method to bribe you, that's all. get them on the good side and then throw you off a cliff.
I'd like to disagree. Hospitality is not bribing. Also, no one threw you off a cliff.
Metaphorically. He is the reason we almost died, though. Gary, you don't need to blame the customer. Incidents like that are the reason they need help.
Right. It will all make sense when we get there. So, after Theo packed his things, we made our way to a Windmore at sunrise. From there, we took a ship.
A brig, just for us. A whole crew for a diplomat.
Safety is important for a politician.
The food was great, to say the least.
At least. We had to take a ship, as you might be aware, Innkeeper. The bridge connecting Dyria and the mainland had been destroyed. I recall. So, the ship we took brought us to the Twin Burrow and not to Amasa itself. Why was that?
Apparently the debris from the bridge is a safety hazard for passing ships.
And if there was one thing we didn't need, it was distress at sea. We were lucky with the weather. The sea stayed calm, even with a thunderstorm right behind us.
And the mood on the ship was jolly. Theo entertained us with his stories of old.
Oh, he's a great storyteller. I wonder where he gets all those thrilling narratives from. Actually, I suppose he still reads a lot. We used to read together when we were younger. We'd read the same book, but always one chapter at a time before giving it to the other to read the same chapter. That way, it felt as though we were reading together. He was always so imaginative. Still is.
So we weren't bored when we reached the shore. You're not so bad yourself with the stories, lad.
I'm glad you like them. Already working on a story about you two. The Claw of Erove and the Hammer of
Thunder?
Ray of Frostgrip, the Hammer of Thunder? No. Ray of Frostgrip, the Hammer of Thunderous Strikes.
Keep working on it, lad. You're getting there.
Yes, things are quite hairy in this bar, all in different ways. Lol. I see what you did there.
The story, can we continue?
Of course, we arrived at Twinborough in the late afternoon. The sun was already setting on the horizon, tinting the world in colors of purple. At that point, none of us could have imagined the world would be tinted in red soon enough.
Red like the sunrise or red like blood? We got off the ship, and after a short break in Twinborough, we made our way to Amasa. We got about 2/3 of the way there without any issues until darkness settled around us. Type of darkness that creeps up on you like an eerie mist. Type of darkness that chokes all the noise out of the world. You know, something is going on and you hear nothing. No birds, no crickets, no wind. Just dead silence. Didn't even realize it was it until Care pulled me aside and pointed it out. Just as I was explaining it to her, my ears perked up. Far away, I heard some low humming sounds. Didn't hear them myself. I thought you were making it up, imagining dark noises in the dark to make up for the absence of light. Sometimes the brain does things like that. Excuse me. It was so silent, except for all the humming. I started getting weird feelings in my guts.
Like a sixth sense?
Like that, yeah. Don't know if there's genes or the experience, but at some point you start feeling something shifts and things ain't as they should be.
Gotcha.
Either way, I hear the humming and it's not long before it turns into a growling. That's when I heard it too, deep and guttural.
I saw silhouettes in the woods, left and right. Their eyes reflected our torchlight eerily. I huddled closer to Theo to protect him.
Soon we were surrounded by a knot of
zombies. A lot of them, everywhere. They were moaning and groaning and so ready to feast on us. I grasped Theo's head because I had to hold on to something.
Had to act fast. They'd already seen us and were surrounding us, so running away wasn't an option. Clearly, we had to fight our way through, so I readied my sword. Wasn't far till Amasa. I felt sturdy as a rock, like nothing could harm me. I needed to ensure the same for Rhea, Archie, and Theodore. So I reached into the powers of your drink. The woman stopped walking abruptly while these beasts were approaching us. I drew me hammer just in case.
I heard her mumble words I didn't understand.
Enhanced by the citrine you put in your drinks, I called upon my Baba, asking for guidance. I've never had much business with the dragons, but she had. I hoped if she reached out, she could lend me some of that. Never felt so close to her before. Not even when I buried that chimera.
The zombies approached, pressing closer against our dim torchlight. And suddenly, a shield of light burst out of her sword, engulfing us. And pushing the zombies away in an eruption of divine force. It was a light of radiant gold all around us, shimmering softly.
I didn't waste any more time and kept going. Honestly, I barely know what I did myself. It's all a haze. Luckily, it seems the undead are like a pack animals, at least for the most part. Made all the slashing a bit easier. Dawn of the Brain Dead. It's been a while since we assembled a quest. We've still got chunks of just about everything. Looks like we still have a lot of game left, which is actually kind of surprising. This has been going on for a while.
She pushed forward, cutting through the zombies one by one. The rest of us at our heels. But it seemed like a bottomless pit. More came rushing towards us. The traveling shield blocked most of them, but eventually
it began to crack. Fair enough, after a bunch of steady, forceful impacts, anything breaks. But I made sure to push the undead back with my hammer.
Meanwhile, Theodore seemed scared. He told me he wished this was just another assassination attempt instead. At least then the foes would have been alive. I was just as terrified, but I did my best to keep him safe. Then he tripped and fell. I tried to catch him, but he pulled me down with him. Yerlin was so focused on getting through the ambush, she pressed on. We fell behind, leaving the shimmering shield's presence. Darkness enclosed us. We got the attention of the zombies, who began cornering us. I couldn't let us die, so I called out for Rhea.
By then, I had already noticed they were gone, so I called out to Carolyn and headed back to the lads. I smashed every undead head that dared come close to Archie. And Archie, well, I didn't know ye had it in you, lad.
Well, it was out of necessity. What happened? One of the zombies grabbed Theo's legs and attempted to drag him away from me. But I got up, drew my rapier, and
poked the thing right through the eye. It dropped to the ground with like a wet towel.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a coughing fit. Her voice does that to me. Almost as bad as Batman. Fascinating. A little. When I heard Rhea, I hurled around. They were all by themselves in the distance, almost dying because someone didn't watch their feet.
Easy, Care. Accidents happen. Accidents kill people. Obviously, I couldn't let that happen, so I rushed back. We lost all our previous advantage as more came flooding in by the second. Not wanting to waste time, I pulled Theodore up by his collar and threw him over my shoulder. I wasn't risking any more accidents. Of course, he didn't like that. Larry said he was invading his personal space. I told him I could have let him die instead, which maybe wasn't the right response. I guess. There we go. Shortly afterwards, we reached the gates of Amasa. The guards came to our aid and helped ward off the zombies. Galen set Theo down, and I helped him inside the safe borders of the city. The horrors were over, and thanks to Carolyn and Rhea, we reached our destination. And to you too, kid. Yeah, I suppose you didn't do too bad of a job. Theo was beyond thankful. Even though he wasn't amused by being thrown over Carolyn's shoulder, he understood that she saved his life. He was so impressed that he said it would make for a great story. Even started on a first draft. But after the fight, he felt really inspired to solve the conflict between Dyria and the mainland. So he'll probably have no time to finish it, and he decided to give the manuscript to me. He said he always liked it when I told him stories, and that he'd love to hear this tale in my words. I promised him I'd write something up for the next time we see each other. Still a better love story than that one romance book. You mean the one with the vampires? Yeah. I doubt this is going to be a love story. I was talking about you two lovebirds. Me? And Theo? We're just, friends. Sure you are. Either way, we brought him to his destination in the city, had some tea, and started making our way back by noon. We checked out most tourist traps. Their tricks don't work if you know what you're up against. I bought a mug. You sure did. But I already have more than enough mugs at home, so, wanted you to have it. So you'll always remember our heroic adventure. I would love to. I'm an avid keepsake collector. Splendid. There it is. I can't see it. I want to see it. Anyways. Afterwards, we had some tea and made our way back by noon. Once we arrived back on the Once we arrived back on the mainland, the flood hit like it had been waiting for us. I can still feel the cold water clinging onto my bones. Speaking of, I'll freshen up a bit. I still have mud in my shoes. And then maybe I'll continue with the rest of the story. Of course, take your time. Now it's just us. Indeed. The kid is so green behind the ears. Aren't we all? Can I offer either of you a drink? After a journey like this one, I could use something that tastes like rocks and regenerates me stamina. Coming right up. Does that mean defense? It does mean defense. I like steel tonic on it, tastes like rocks. Here, let's put some rocks in it. That might help. Thanks, Innkeep. Much needed. You're welcome. Here, let's talk about your extraordinary fighting skills. Gotta say, I was really impressed with how you decimated them zombies. Takes a good beast slayer to know one. Nah, I'm more of a general fighting type, you know, but I can always appreciate 2 strong hands. And such well-crafted greatsword on top of that. Happy to see you appreciate solid craftsmanship. It was a gift from my baba. She told me that the great dragons themselves gifted it to her, but I don't know if that's true. Could be. You went against the Chimera after all. Might be onto something there. Have you ever heard of the Great Axe of Ur? The most powerful weapon ever forged by the origin of the worlds itself? You bet. Think it really exists? I mean, my Baba loved to tell stories, but if her sword was made by the dragons, maybe Ur's great axe is also more than just a myth. Dwarves have their origin in the subterranean caves, you know, on the plain of Ur. I grew up in a labyrinth of caves, surrounded by gems and ores, legends and tales. I mean, I haven't seen it with me own 2 eyes yet, but I'm convinced the legendary weapon exists. I bet it's so large I probably wouldn't even recognize it as an axe. I've heard Ur keeps it in a resting place at all times. Yeah. Though so far no one has found that yet. And hopefully no one ever has to. Well, never mind, I've got the entire quest here, so I guess someone will. What do you mean? You know the tale. If someone was to wake up Ur up, the apocalypse would begin. That's just an old tale, right? Something you tell kids that don't want to eat their food? You know, eat up or Ur will awaken. Questionable parenting technique, if you ask me. Yeah, I gotta hear that a few times when I was still a wee bairn. All those tales ever did was make me want to craft the legendary weapon myself. You ever make something like it? Not yet, but I will soon. I'll make the greatest weapon ever forged and smash this year's Sugarheart blacksmithing competition to bits. I'll outcraft my ex-husband with ease, that... Ex-husband? Yeah, we used to work together. Now he claims I couldn't stand a chance without him. But I'll prove him wrong. Anyways, and keep care. It's been getting quite late, and it's been an exhausting week. Absolutely agreed. Let's get some rest. And look for another quest elsewhere to help forward me crafting materials. Good night, you two. Good night, Carolyn. No, you didn't keep. Gulp, gulp, gulp.